Thanks for being with us this morning on AM Agenda. Joining me now from Adelaide, I have Labor MP Amanda Rishworth, and in Sydney, Liberal MP Paul Fletcher. Thank you both for being here. Paul, I want to ask you first of all, as a telco expert, you worked for many years for Optus, and you know how this world works. Tell me, 90% opt-in in Armidale for the NBN. That sounds like a ringing endorsement of the plan, doesn't it?
Kieran, let's be clear. The National Broadband Network is running late. It's not getting good take-up. In Tasmania, only about 720 people have taken up the service out of more than 4,000 past. We heard that there are 7 customers, Kieran, 7. Is the Prime Minister going to go and visit each one of them individually this morning? This thing was supposed to be built by mid-2020. We heard from the Chief Executive, Mike Quigley, on Monday in a parliamentary committee hearing that they're running late on things like getting a deal with Telstra. Only a handful of people, less than 1,000, have a service today on the NBN. This has been Labor's policy for several years. They've delivered virtually nothing, and it's going to cost $56 billion of taxpayers' money. We support an upgraded broadband infrastructure, but this is not the right plan, and we can see the thing is running late and it's out of control.
Well, Paul, let's get Amanda to respond to that. Amanda, can you respond to each of those assertions from Paul Fletcher that it's late and that the take-up is not as it should be?
I can say that Armidale isn't the only place. In Wollonga, another first release site in my electorate, there is around 94% opt-in. So what we're seeing right across the country are people wanting this service. Now, I have to say, in terms of what Paul said as his alternative plan, we're not really sure what the Coalition's plan is. I heard Barnaby Joyce talking about fibre to the node. Well, that's not going to help, and Paul, being an expert on communications, will know that's not going to help the many people on paired gains that cannot actually access broadband at the moment in my electorate and right round the country. So in terms of the Liberal Party scare campaign, it just doesn't fit with what the broader community, Australian community, want, and that is access to broadband. And we know, and in fact Paul in his book called for a national broadband network, and so I hope that he does see sense and get on board with our program.
Kieran, let's be clear.
Let's get Paul to... Yeah, Paul, Kieran, I'll let you respond to that.
Just on pair
Absolutely.
gains.
But let me add to that as well. Respond to that, no question. But I also want to ask you about fibre. Now, all the experts, do they not say fibre is future-proof?
Let's just first, on pair gains, our policy, which we took to the last election, was to spend over $6 billion on improving broadband, including a specific plan to improve broadband in areas of outer suburban Australia, like Amanda's electorate, that have pair gains and therefore DSL can't be delivered. And we could deliver that quickly. Amanda, just let me finish. That could be delivered much more quickly than waiting until 2020. The second point is we need to be very clear on this. The rates that are being quoted are the rates for people to have their home physically connected to the network. They are not the rates for people to take up a service. And that's what really matters. How many people are actually taking up a service? And that number in Tasmania is very low. It's about 18%. And we've heard that in Armidale there are 7 customers. This thing financially is not meeting its metrics. With $56 billion of taxpayers' money at risk, Kieran, you, me, everybody has a big stake in this, and so far it is proving to be a financial and commercial disaster.
Paul, I want to get you on the fibre issue, though, more broadly, but let me just get Amanda's comment, if I can, quickly, on the 7 customers assertion that's being made today by Paul and by Senator Joyce, that, you know, that's what the numbers are at this point.
Well, that's what the ABC is reporting this morning.
Well, look,
let's hear what Amanda's got to say about that.
I can't talk about actual numbers, but what we are doing is future-proofing this country to compete in the national economy and in the global economy. And quite frankly, the Liberal Party will look at any reason to detract away from this very popular and very needed nation-building project. And Paul suggests that his plan would somehow fix these issues. Well, we know that the Coalition put up 18, 19 failed broadband plans when they were in government. We are getting down. This has been endorsed by international experts. In Silicon Valley, there's CEOs saying that they wish their country was going down this path. So this is a nation-building program.
On the fibre issue, is it not future-proof, as most analysts, experts say in this field?
Kieran, Labor's plan is a mix of satellite and wireless in rural and remote areas and fibre in the cities. There's very little disagreement about wireless and satellite as being appropriate, and both parties have broadly agreed on that. Now, is fibre the highest capacity? It is, but it needs to be weighed up against cost, and there are various ways of doing fibre. An alternative to fibre to the premises is something called fibre to the node, which is much less expensive. And indeed, what we ought to be doing is setting targets and not being prescriptive about technology. But the bigger issue is this. This is a government which has a proven record of not delivering on programs, of messing things up. We've seen the pink bats. We've seen all kinds of programs that have gone over budget, have been poorly managed, and we're now proposing to give them billions of dollars of taxpayers' money in this $56 billion project.
Well, once again, this is your scare campaign to actually move Australia
Amanda,
forward.
it's the
Paul.
reality.
No, it's not. And you would know that fibre to the node does not get the speeds to the house that are needed for our
Fibre to the node
future.
network could readily deliver 20, 30 or even 40 megabits per second. One of the things that has been...
Let's wrap that up. My apologies, Paul. You've both made some decent points on that, but there are two other issues I want to get to. Carbon tax. Amanda, it looks like the government's going to offset the initial impact on petrol prices. Just quickly from both of you, I want to bounce around a couple of issues here. It'd be crazy not to provide an offset to consumers at the Bowser, at least to begin with, would it not?
Oh, well, look, obviously the government is very conscious of the cost of living pressures on householders, and that is why in the development of the carbon price and the pricing mechanism on carbon, we've been very clear that there will be assistance for householders. Now, in terms of the actual detail about petrol, a whole range of things, we're still working through those issues through the Multi-Climate Change Committee, but the impact on householders is at the forefront of our mind, and we will be working very hard to ensure that they are provided assistance to adjust to a pricing mechanism on carbon. But what we've got to be also clear about, this is about certainty for the future, for the energy industry, for a whole range of industries. The price impact that can happen as a result of uncertainty is great on consumers as well.
Okay, Paul,
and so we need to make sure that
on that issue of uncertainty, are you worried that once the deal is done, if they can bring Tony Windsor with them, the government, that then the coalition's in a position where they're going to say, OK, we're going to roll this back and provide a whole heap more of uncertainty?
Kieran, what I'm worried about is that the Greens are determining the policy here. We now are hearing that this could be $40 a tonne. In fact, Senator Hanson-Young has been quoted as saying she'd like to see it as being as much as $100 a tonne. So we've got policy on carbon tax being set by the Greens, and this is going to drive the cost of living up. Australians are facing increasing cost of living. We're seeing electricity prices dramatically rising, and despite these glib assurances, I think there's no reason at all to be confident that you won't see also a significant price impact in petrol over time.
OK, on asylum seekers, Amanda Rishworth, we've got to move on. We've only got 2 minutes left, and I want to get through this last issue if we can. We're hearing that the deal with PNG could be signed as early as this week. It really needs to, doesn't it, Amanda? Because at the moment there are a lot of asylum seekers in limbo as they wait to be transferred to a third country.
Well, we've been working with, obviously, Malaysia in finalising the deal and the agreement with Malaysia, and we've also been in talks with PNG. What the message the government is sending, though, is clear, that if you're looking to get on a boat, if you're an asylum seeker looking to pay money, then there's no point in getting on a boat and coming to Australia, because you won't be processed here. You will be processed in a third country. So,
Paul
look, that's
Fletcher,
the message that we're sending clear.
OK, and if the deal is done, Paul, that would certainly, well, the government's aim is to relieve a bit of pressure off the system at the moment. If they can get those two deals done, that would be some progress for them, wouldn't it?
Kieran, over 6,000 people in detention centres right now, over 225 boats since this government came to power, 3 boats in the last 4 days. This Malaysian deal, if it were consummated, would involve 800 asylum seekers. At the rate that we're getting more people coming because of this government's loss of control of the borders, this deal will only cover a few days or a few weeks of arrivals. So no, this is not a solution. and we have got a government that has lost control of its borders. It is just not on top of this issue.
Paul Fletcher and Amanda Rishworth, great to see you both this morning. Thanks for your time on the program. And that's all for this.